this is Lisa Rose here on Connect to Love on PRN-FM, and I'm joined by the amazing Michael J. Russ. I want to say welcome, Michael, and it's just such a delight.
Yeah.
It's always wonderful. A delight.
Always wonderful to sit down with you for an hour.
Likewise. And you have gifted me, I think it came from a movie, but the term Jimmy Jacking, and which I absolutely love. And you gave me some inspiration for the show today, so I want to say thank you first. And also to our listeners, both anybody that's a new listener, welcome to the show. And anybody that's been a loyal listener, we so appreciate you. So I want to say welcome to you as well. And we're so happy to have you.
Welcome.
Oh, so happy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you gave me the term Jimmy Jack, and I know that you are a handyman, just like I am a handy woman. And so in every handyman's tool chest, there is a roll of duct tape, right?
Yep.
Use it for just about anything, right? Just about anything.
Oh, yeah.
And it comes in so handy. I used it yesterday to stick a note to the front door because I didn't have any regular tape. I'm like, oh, here's some duct tape, and I'll stick it to the door. So you have a roll of duct tape, and in your kitchen or your refrigerator, do you keep fruit?
Yeah.
That's a question.
Sometimes,
yeah.
Yes.
Do you by chance have a banana?
No. Sandy can't eat it.
Okay.
But hey, go ahead.
Well, if you did, I think they're about 79 cents a pound, right? And how much is a roll of duct tape, generally speaking?
Generally expensive. I buy a specific kind of duct tape, and I don't know, $5, $6, $8 a roll, something like that.
Okay. So what would you say if I said to you, I'm going to sell you a roll of duct tape and a banana for $6.2 million? Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'd be laughing all the way to somewhere.
You would be. So I'm so excited because you sent me some information this morning from Abraham Hicks, and it was sort of, in my estimation, lots of different really golden nuggets. But I thought about it as being, what do we perceive and how do we create our reality? So the point of my story is that Italian artist Maurizio Cattelan created a piece of art with a single piece of fruit, which was a banana, affixed to a white wall with silver duct tape. And it premiered in 2019 at the Art Basel Miami Beach Festival. And another artist saw the banana taped to the wall, and he pulled it off and he ate it. And so they replaced the piece of fruit. But what was so interesting is it ended up, there were 3 editions that sold of that piece of art for between $120,000 and $150,000, according to what the gallery said at that time. But just yesterday, that same piece of fruit that was entitled Comedian by that artist sold for $6.2 million at auction in New York. That was the winning bid. And what is so fascinating, I mean, as the bids were going up, this started at $800,000, and within minutes it shot up to $2 million, then $3 million, then $4 million, and then the auctioneer said, "Don't let it slip away." He said, "I never thought I would ever utter those words. $5 million for a banana, don't let it slip away." The final hammer in the room was like $5.2 million, which didn't include the $1 million of the auction house fee. And what's so interesting, because it was sort of on the tails of this painting that got like a record $121.2 million for another auction. It was actually for a piece of art. Now, I'm not saying that a banana is duct taped to a wall is not a piece of art. So for anybody who might take offense, it's just that, would I pay that for it? And what was interesting, when the person who purchased it, they said to them, "Well, what are you going to do with it?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to eat the banana." And he received a certificate, because obviously the question is, well, bananas rot. What do you do? And he received a certificate that said that any banana he puts under duct tape is that same piece of art, which I think is so fascinating. And it just, to me, it goes exactly to that same thing that Abraham Hicks was talking about, that in our life, we create our reality. And we put these self-imposed limitations on ourselves. And how do we shift the focus from what we believe to be true to something else, and cultivating that abundance that already exists in our life? Now, this artist, it was definitely daring. It was maybe perhaps a little cheeky, but he saw a possibility in this realm of infinite possibilities. And I thought it would be a really fun way to kick off the show, because that's exactly what we are talking about, the things that create blockages and how we overcome them, whether it be the things that we create in our mind or somebody telling us, that's a really dumb idea, that'll never sell. You're going to do what at a festival? You're going to put that on a wall? That's going to sell? What's that going to sell for? Oh, that's never going to sell. But it did.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a great story, by the way. And from a reality perspective, I mean, I've created art in the past, and we've all, I think, at one particular point, created something. However, the reality of putting that together. One thing was, the first thing I thought about when you talked about the gentleman who was he was an Italian artist, right? Was that right? Am I right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he was an artist, a recognized artist. That's number one. And the question you have to ask yourself is, can any Joe or Mary Joe off the street create that and actually have that same scenario play out? And my answer would be no, and I think a lot of people would say no, that wouldn't be it. But he was an artist. He was a recognized artist. So sort of like the gentleman who, I don't know, there's another gentleman by the name of Basquiat, I think Basquiat, who was a street artist, street graffiti artist, and created some things. And a lot of graffiti artists have gone on to do really wonderful things in the art world, which I think is fantastic, because an artist is an artist, whether you're using spray paint or you're using paint and a brush and an easel and whatever it may be that you're creating with, or carving, or a banana and duct tape. If you're a recognized artist, you can get away with doing something like that. The second thing I thought was that we live in a world today where one person's idea of art, and this is the point I believe you're getting to, is another person's, what the heck are they doing, right? You're thinking, okay, that's art. Maybe you just got too much money. maybe you got more money than you can spend in your lifetime or 10 lifetimes, and you got to figure out a creative way to get rid of it. Or it could be, hey, remember seeing the movie Brewster's Millions? You ever seen Brewster's Millions? You're too young for that. Come on. Richard Pryor. Brewster's Millions. You got to watch the movie. It's absolutely phenomenal. And it's the story about a man, a young black man who plays in not even A-rated baseball team. I think he's A. There's double A, triple A, and then there's the professionals. This guy is A. He's got a team he's playing with, and he's a pitcher. And that's his dream, is to be in the major leagues. And with his level of talent, not going to get there. However, he has a dream. And he finds out one day, somebody comes to him and says, hey, you need to come with us. We have something for you. This is an attorney who shows up. And not to ruin the entire plot, but or the subplot, but he has to spend $30 million in 30 days. $30 million. That's what he has to do, right?
Wow.
And the trick is that he gets even more when he does that. But he can't have a penny left over, and he can't give it away. He has to spend it. He can't give it to charity. He can't give it away to anyone. He has to, and he can't tell anyone what he's doing.
My goodness.
Why he has to do it. Nobody knows why he's doing what he's doing. And he finds creative. The movie is about how creatively he can find, how creatively he can just get rid of this $30 million in 30 days and have zero left over, not one penny at the end of the 30 days. It's a brilliant story, and I don't know why anybody hasn't done a remake of the movie. But Richard Pryor was brilliant in the movie.
Well, because Richard Pryor is pretty classic, so it'd be hard to follow. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you can imagine. I mean, if you sit yourself down in that position, and you can only buy so many cars. But here was the other aspect. He couldn't have any assets left.
Oh my goodness, isn't that interesting?
He couldn't have a dime or any representation of money, anything whatsoever. He couldn't have a desk, an office desk that he had bought with that money. Nothing. He couldn't. He had to walk out with the clothes he walked in with, and that's it, right? So you think about that. You go. You think to yourself, "Oh, this is easy. I can just do whatever." But no. You can't go out and buy a $30 million jet because you have the jet. Now you get rid of the jet. You can't get anything for the jet because if you buy the jet, you can't give the jet away. You can't take $1 for it. You see, that's not the way it works because you have to get fair value.
Right.
So he does find a way that I'm not going to spoil it for you, but he finds many creative ways, a couple of really interesting ways to spend a whole lot of money. And that's what the movie's about, and it's really fabulous. Brewster's Million.
Yeah, wow. I have to put that on my little list of things to do this either this weekend or over the Thanksgiving holiday because that sounds like a great movie.
It's a great movie with a cup of tea or a big bowl of popcorn, dogs around. Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting because when you said that about this particular artist, Maurizio Catalan. So, of course, being me, because I'm curious, I'm so curious all the time. I did. I looked him up because I wanted to know, who he was, what he was doing, how did he get his start. So I found out that he had a very humble beginnings. His father was a truck driver. His mother was a maid, and his family struggled financially. And so he thought, I think in school they said that he was disliked. He had poor grades. He found himself into trouble. And when his mother took ill when he was a little bit older, and he said that his mother blamed him for her illness, which is, he kind of had this big thing about failure and ended up dropping out of school. And he had lots of different jobs. He worked in a post office, in a mortuary, in kitchens, and whatever it was that he could do to bring in money. And then he decided that he was going to start being an artist. So he started by drawing mustaches on church statues, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend. But it was interesting because he had no formal art education. He ended up becoming a sculptor and doing a lot of installation art. But when he had the idea of becoming an artist, he visualized himself seeing his work on a magazine cover. And so in 1989, he decided to fake his own cover of this splash art magazine and put his sculpture on the cover of the magazine. And then what he did was he distributed it in magazine stores and galleries, and that's how he launched his career. Isn't that amazing? Talk about seeing yourself there and then putting yourself out there and actually seeing your work on the cover of a magazine and whatever it takes. I mean, you talk about a vision board. I think that took it to the nth degree. And some of it, I looked up some of his installations. They were, some of them, much more complex than the duct tape with the banana. But I think that the art world sort of seen him as the comedian or a joker or just very lighthearted. But again, we talk about this all the time. Banana in the tailpipe. Don't take yourself so seriously, right?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
From,
what came up?
Eddie Murphy.
What came to my mind when you said that is bringing it back to what the show's about, but singular focus and attention. We're talking about manifestation. And why somebody asked, I think Abraham, why people became billionaires. why they became millionaires or multimillionaires, and why couldn't anybody else? Why am I not a multimillionaire? Whatever. And Abraham said very simply, they have a singular-minded focus. You have a singular focus. It drives you. You wake up in the morning, you go to bed at night, it drives you, it moves you. Your focus and attention is on succeeding, is on being that the representation of that. Your feelings, your positive feelings, your emotions are all moving in that direction. And she's saying, simply put, the average person gets an idea, gets behind it for 10 minutes until somebody tells them, oh, that'll never work. Or they start doubting. And they start fearing how they're going to make it happen. They get caught up in the how. How am I going to do this? That how drives the idea away from them, because you're not supposed to focus on the how. You let the how happen. You let your higher self, your guides, source, deal with the how. Bring you, in other words, your thought, your positive feelings and thoughts about what it is that you're excited about, passionate about doing. You let your thoughts and feelings create the law of attraction to bring other positivity to you. And this particular gentleman did just that in spades. He went to lengths that the average person wouldn't even think about. And on top of that, if I ever met this guy, I'd go, kudos to you, man. Your mother blamed you. No, hang on a second. Your mother blamed you for her illness. That would stop. That alone would wrap up the average person in a knot and render them unable to think creatively or to drive forward. They'd be caught up in the drama of that, caught up in that and what that meant to them. They'd be focused on that negativity and never really move forward and make anything of themselves. He just literally, I just like, oh, that was just a no. I don't believe that. I don't know what he did. I'd love to ask him, how did you process that? Because you would have never gotten to where you arrived at in terms of your profession and art. The creativity, the inspiration it took, it would have been just sucked right out of you by your focused on your mother telling, that her illness was your fault. Wow.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah,
and then he said, in the article that I read, he had a sister, and he said she remembered being embarrassed that her brother was an artist, and any mention of him, she said, because he was just an artist, and she equated that with being lazy, do nothing.
A failure, basically.
A failure, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And
it is so true. Yeah, I agree. Wow. But I mean,
it is.
I love it, not to interrupt you, but yeah, I love you. I love it. I love the idea of the lengths that he went to well, it reminds me of the woman who started Spanx, right? She's a millionaire now, but she started Spanx. I don't know if we've talked about this on the show. We probably have.
Yeah, Sarah Blakely. Sarah M. Blakely.
Right. Sarah Blakely, how she literally went into, I think she went into Nordstrom's, and she set up displays in Nordstrom's in the undergarment department without anybody's permission. She just went in there and did that to show people, to show that the interest that would be created by her product. And I mean, it takes guts to walk through the door with your stuff, acting as if you belong there, and putting up your stuff and getting people's reactions. And most people would say, "Well, wait a minute. Doesn't it have to have a SKU? Don't I have to have permission? Doesn't it have to?"
I know, right?
First, and doesn't it? What happens if somebody says, "I want to buy that," and then you get all wrapped up in that, right? You'll never get there if you're thinking about those little nuances of it, and that's what will stop most people. I mean, it really does.
You're right.
Stop most people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, kudos. It takes bold moves to bold thinking, I should say, and bold creative thinking, and a driving passion and a single-minded focus to actually make your dreams happen, make your desires come to fruition.
You're right.
I mean, that's where those ideas come from.
Yeah, you're right. And I love, Michael, that you brought up the how, because it's so true that when we focus on what we lack, or when we obsess over the how of how our dreams will come true, that's like number one, a blockage. So I had a dear friend. He's really an amazing person. I swear he's Nikola Tesla reincarnated. He's so brilliant. And he reached out to me the other day, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing this, but he's like, I've got this idea on doing these cabins on my property. I have this gorgeous property. And I said, I think that's a really amazing idea. I think you should do it. And then he said, then I'm going to probably have to dig a septic system because there's no this. And I'd like to put 3, but I don't know where I could get the money. And, there's probably going to be a problem with this. And I'm like, wait a minute, stop.
Hold on a second. Talk yourself right out of it.
Stop, right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. First of all, focus on one. Start, if you want to just do one, get that up and running. Let that finance the other projects. And I said, who have you told about this? And Sarah Blakely, I'm really glad you brought up, because she said she didn't tell anybody about her idea for 1 year because of everybody that would have told her, no, it was a dumb idea. And that's exactly what he said. He said, well, this person said this and this person said that. I said, well, you call me next time, because guess what? I'm going to tell you that you can do it, and there's no obstacles in your way, and just allow your vision to come true. I said, it will come. If you put that energetic vibration, and I said, you're so good at manifesting other things for other people. Now it's time to do it for you. This is your dream. You have this beautiful piece of property. You want to share the experience. You've already created in your mind. Why are you going to let somebody put that block in your flow of abundance in your way?
Oh, yeah.
Sure, go ahead, please.
Go ahead. I mean, I was watching this show, and it was a show about, there are lots of shows out there about tiny homes and other things like tiny Airbnbs, and there's all kinds of things. But this show was really about entrepreneurs who were doing tiny homes or, tiny Airbnbs. That's really what it was about. It was about them being entrepreneurs and thinking creatively outside the box. And there were some people, several couples, who did just that. They said, we wanted to do something on this property, and we didn't have, we figured, what could we do? And one of them went out and just got an old Airstream and redid it and put that on the property, and started Airbnb, because it was such a beautiful property. It was in an area that was quiet, and people from the city are craving quiet. They put a fire pit and other things. Just think about this crazy stuff, thinking outside the box. And then they let that, and they were getting like, I don't know, $175, $250 a night, something. Can't remember the amount, but it was an amount that I'm going, someone's paying that? And and they were allowing that to finance doing another one, right? And then before you know it, they've got 3 or 4. And they put them on the property that they weren't on top of each other. And there's another couple did something else. And that's, it's that creativity. I just love watching those kinds of programs, because these people are exemplifying what it is that we keep talking about. And the fact that Sarah didn't tell anybody for a year, there was a guy back in I've got it in one of my notebooks that I'm not going to be able to find at this particular point, but I wrote down his name, and I wrote that specific example. This guy was from the 1920s, and he was a New Thought, he was in the New Thought movement. And he said, listen, go out. If you've got an idea, don't tell anyone. The mind is highly susceptible to suggestion. Mm-hmm. So don't tell anybody that you're going to do something. Just go out and do it. And another person, I think, I don't know if it was Abraham, could have said that wait until, or it might have been somebody else, but wait until the idea that you're looking to pursue has fully crystallized, and you are at a point energetically where nothing can stop you. Then tell somebody. Mm-hmm. Wait until that point, because in the beginning, in the gel period, when you're gelling an idea and you're scheming it, kind of putting it together. Your mind is highly subject to suggestion, and all someone has to do is just kind of dump on that idea, pour water on your fire, and it'll make you double think. They'll throw how are you going to do that? Yeah, you may have to dig it. You may have to have a septic tank put in. It's possible, but there's another way to do it too. All right? You can have a macerating toilet. There are macerating toilets you can put anywhere, right? There are other things that you can do. And so I love these examples. I get energized by them.
Yeah.
Because I'm the kind of person that wants to do something, but I don't do it my way. Not that I don't want to, people say don't reinvent the wheel. Well, that's exactly what Sarah Blakely did. She reinvented the wheel. And sometimes you have to do that. You have to go outside the box because you don't have the same resources that somebody else has, or you don't have the same training, or you don't have an education that tells you that there's only one way of doing something. So you go out and you find a way to do it yourself. Pretty awesome.
You're absolutely right. And I'm glad that you brought up the idea of all of the creative different types of tiny homes, because there was one that I just found out about, I think it was last week, and it completely fascinated me. And it's in Ireland, and I think they have them a lot of different places, but the one that I saw that was the video from was in Ireland, and a little island called Valentia. And the type of tiny homes that they have, they call them bee beds. And they're for healing. And if you would tell somebody you're going to go into a building and there are, I can't even remember the quantity of bees that are in there. They actually heat the home. They're behind the walls. They're underneath everything. You have to go to the bed in a full suit of bees, like a bee suit for protection. And then when you walk in, you lay down on this bed. And they found that it's incredibly healing, that the buzzing of the bees will actually, when you sleep on it, it helps the human's heart and blood vessels. It helps eliminate congestion in the body. It just is so peaceful. And I looked at the video and I was watching people laying down, and just when they woke up, the look on their face, they were so incredibly just peaceful and blissful. And it never even occurred to me. So, and then you think to yourself, well, how am I going to market this? How am I going to market the fact that I've got this tiny home and I'm inviting people to come and sleep with all of these bees buzzing around them, right? But it takes a minute to go outside the box of normal thinking and to really experience something new and to create a business. And I think there's quite a few of them all throughout the world. When I started to do a little bit of research, is it the business for me? Not so much, but I would sure like to experience it now that I know about it.
I think it's awesome. While you were talking, I was looking it up on Google here. Sleep in the bee house in southern Italy. This is amazing.
Oh, so there's one in Italy too.
Yeah, it's not an idea that is strictly in Ireland, but there are plans for building a beehive house, how to attract bees. There's all kinds of information. I just love that. That's what I love now. To me, that's the best thing about the internet, is that it can connect you with your idea with a global consciousness of the same idea. You're not the only one that's got the idea. There are at least 100, if not 1,000 people that have the same idea. It's a sort of energy. The frequency of thought has no time, no space, and you're not the only one with the idea.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about it. And the internet is the way that you can get on and connect with other people doing things and find out about whatever it is you needed to do.
It's fascinating because the bees actually heat the house, and who would have thought that would have been the case? And I think that when I think about it, it was like 500,000 bees, 500,000 bees, and so not only are you helping humans, but you're also helping the bee population, which I think is amazing.
And you're buying the honey when you wake up in the morning. It's but it's
for sure.
The honey. I mean, you're producing honey. A lot of people are taking up beekeeping, and I think it's absolutely awesome. A son of a friend of mine came over for our annual crab feed and bought some honey. He's got bees. He's a OBGYN, and
wow.
He's enjoying the idea of beekeeping. I mean, it's an amazing thing. It's not my thing, but it's somebody's thing. It's the energy that and passion that you can put into something, any kind of project, is going to. Let's just talk about this. It's going to keep you young. It's It's going to create an energetic field around you and within you that is going to lift you up. It's joyful. You're joyful in the morning. You're joyful at night when you go to bed. You're pursuing something that's making you happy, that's fun and exciting. And as Bashar said, do what excites you, and all the good things come to you, because those positive feelings beget more positive feelings and beget in whatever now you have in terms of your own desires. You're feeding those desires with positive energy. It's interesting, and I just have to say this, but in the last 12 months, past year and a half, let's say, the concept of law of attraction, the concept of manifestation has become exponential in terms of information. And there's all these channelers out there who are laying this groundwork for a major shift, a major change in our consciousness, in our thinking, in our manifestation of our desires. I mean, it's like I was reading stuff 40 years ago. It was nothing like we're looking at today. Nothing. As a matter of fact, the stuff of 40 years ago, 50 years ago, with regard to manifestation, goal setting, all this kind of stuff, achieving goals, was all see-spot run, build a square box and put your thing in it. And I mean, it was simplistic by any measure versus what we have today. It's just it is amazing. You can go on YouTube and you can find out this stuff that you're like, wait a minute, I've been thinking all this time that I had to do this, or this is the way to do that. And the concept. I recognized the value of self-talk 40 years ago in a rearranged mind, but that's just a microcosm. That's a small piece of the puzzle. The perception combined, which drives the self-talk, which creates the feelings, all of that whole process now has been expanded to the point where it's not only simple and easy to understand in this environment and necessary, because versus 40 years ago, we've got, I don't know, maybe 1 million times the information stream that we had back then. Our access to information was little at best. Through books, you had to wait till somebody published something in order to find out about it, or go to a library and research it. But you still had to wait till the new thought authors back then weren't necessarily in all the libraries yet.
No, they weren't. You're absolutely right.
And so you couldn't just go to the library and what were you going to tell the librarian? I want to, what do you call it, right? And so you went to seminars, you went to workshops. That's how you discovered that. When I went to Tony Robbins back in 1986 and 87, I went to Tony Robbins. He came to town, and he was the new thought leader of the day, and still today there's things that I use that I learned way back then with him in a workshop or a seminar. The matching and mirroring concepts we've talked about in the past, which had their foundation in neuro-linguistic programming. They have value. You find, and anybody who's listening, this is the way I do it, and I know you do it the same way. You have a lot of information coming at you, and really, for me, what I do is I discern what aspect of that information I can take and use right now to make my life better. And because if you attempt to do everything that you're exposed to, you'll become overwhelmed. And you really won't do anything. So you take little bits and pieces, little nugget here. I said what I call it is you find little nuggets in the information, little bits of treasure you can use to enrich your life. That's what I like to say you're doing it, because that's what I do, and that's the way that you move forward. Pick one thing, pick two things, and that's about it. Keep it simple. Focus on that. Master that first, and then move on. Never stop ingesting information, consuming information, I should say, because there are other people that might put what you're doing in a different way. They might say it differently, which might make it more clear for you and give you the opportunity, that clarity, to use that clarity to grow exponentially from that little seed of information that you originally consumed. And I love it. So much. Every day. We just talked about it. I sent you 2 videos this morning from Abraham. And they're saying something completely in a different way that you and I have been saying on this show with regard to yourself allowing other people to dictate how you feel, and allowing outside events and investing in things that aren't relevant for you, that don't serve you, that no longer serve you. And to that extent, I just have a little story, just a quick story. I went to the chiropractor today, and this woman I haven't seen in probably 4 years, as I haven't needed to go back. I've been feeling fantastic, but I wanted to go back for a tune-up. I'd felt a couple of tweaks, so I walked in, and we got to know each other again. She says, yeah, I had breast cancer 2 years ago, and I had this, I had that, got taken care of. Boom, I moved past it. I'm done. Hey, I'm feeling great. And I said, isn't that amazing? And she said, yeah. She says, the interesting thing is that they wanted to involve me in this cancer survivor thing, some kind of club or something. And I said, what? I said, I don't want to be reminded of this. I don't want to invest in that. I'm well now. I went through what I needed to do to get well, right? You have a cold, you don't go around for the next 10 years talking about, I had a cold, I had a flu, and you're still investing. I survived the cold or the flu, Right. And my theory about this is, my feelings about this, even on my own podcast, I've said, quite frankly, that society, the business of cancer requires a lot of money, research money. Not to say that we shouldn't invest in research. However, in order to do that, it's preying, in my view, on people's feelings and emotions about cancer, their possible brush with death, which isn't always the case, but that's a perception that a lot of that's pushed, right? And it's about what we think, what our perceptions are about our own health and about our own bodies. And she said, I had never had any doubt that I was just going to move right through this. And I said, that's awesome. She had no doubt. And she disconnected herself from it. She said, absolutely not. And to her, it was like turning a chapter in a book. Boom, it's done. I'm moving on. And I said, that's exactly the way I feel. When I had my herniated disc, same thing. It was a chapter in the book, a chapter in my life book that I took on, mastered, got rid of. Boom, I'm gone. There is there's no reliving it. I don't want to relive it every day in one way or another. There's no positive way to relive a herniated disc. I can just tell you that, because that's something I've experienced. So, yeah, it's there's information out there that we can consume that can have an immediate impact. And for somebody who has somebody in their life, if we have a listener that has someone in their life that is making them feel bad for whatever reason, it could be a parent that is constantly throwing this guilt trip at you, or it could be a friend, or it could be work. We have to understand, in my view, two things. How we perceive what's happening has a lot to do with how we're going to process it and how we're going to feel about it. And you had mentioned something in the beginning of this show that played on perceptions. The perception of the Italian artist, the perception of himself was positive, and at all times. And that positivity begets more positivity and more positivity and more creativity and more inspiration. And it just goes on and continues. That energy continues to expand and expand and expand. And he never once, evidently, stopped to think how or stopped to wonder if he could make it happen. It was just, I'm going to do this. I'm doing this, right? And even though his sister had a feeling about him, and there's a lot of creative people who have other people in their lives, the reason why somebody says something to you about, negative to you about it, is none of your business.
Right.
None of your business at all. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. And that's none of your business. And I just love that line. I've said over and over in my books and in a podcast, I wish I had written that line.
I know, it's none of my business what other people think of me.
Yeah, what you think of me is none of my business. Terry Cole Whitaker's book, awesome piece of work, and I've
not read that. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, no, it sounds amazing. But I think you're so right, Michael. And when you were speaking about that, it made me think about the artist David Cho, who I think is so off the charts creative. I mean, he was born in a Korean family, and it was not acceptable to be an artist, and it's challenged him, and in some ways maybe perhaps brought up more creativity, and now his parents, they just didn't really understand him and what he did, and it created a lot of self-doubt perhaps, and I find his paintings amazing, and he creates all sorts of different things and pokes fun at himself, and is just so it's just interesting. But he does talk about this sort of dark space, but I think when we break free of those self-imposed limitations because of what people have told us we should be, and then instead, shift that focus into something else. And so if you have a job perhaps that you're not fond of, and you go there every morning and you think, oh my God, I got to get up, I got to go to this job, find something in that job that brings you joy.
Right.
Even if it's just your paycheck. Even if it is just your paycheck. But life is way too short to be somewhere that you don't really want to be. And that was one of the things that I really appreciate about Abraham. And also, I think that teachers have said the same thing. They talk about these these blockages we form in terms of like clogged pipes. And you think, yeah, you put Drano down, but it doesn't always get the problem taken care of. You have to really take care of it in it from a different standpoint. And I think that for me, the best way to unclog a pipe or to shift a blockage is to practice gratitude for what I already have, and then visualize the outcome, and then the joy as if it's already there. And that's how I raise my vibration. And I was at one of the big box stores, the building supply stores yesterday, and I had a not-so-friendly person greet me at the return counter. And instead of standing at the counter and saying, can you bring me the manager, and having a temper tantrum, I was like, okay, I'm just going to walk, and I did like a 180, walked out the door, and I came back, and guess what? She wasn't the person who ended up waiting on me. Another really delightful girl who had absolutely no problem with anything that I was bringing back. And I was bringing back a lot of stuff, and she was so pleasant, and it was really nice. But I could have, as Abraham says all the time, beat the drum. I could have gotten on the phone and after I left the store and called the manager and said, that person should not. What is it going to get me? It's going to create more of what I don't want, and I don't want more of that. I want more of the girl, the second girl, who had such a beautiful smile, and everything unfolded in divine perfection. It was easy breezy. And it was simple.
Your story makes me think of one thing, and that is that you didn't invest in it. You didn't invest any emotions and feelings. You didn't expand it in your energy field. I guess that's probably the best way to put it, which is what I was listening to this morning that Abraham was talking about. And actually, Carol Collins and the teachers have said it in a different way, but the same thing. Do not expand negativity. Don't expand it. Minimize it. Minimize it. Let it go quickly, because it's not what you want in your life, and you have that kind of control. And what I love about what your story is that you didn't do that. You turned around, you did a 180, you walked out, and you'd give yourself a redo. You literally shifted the energy. You didn't invest in it. So that woman who you came across initially, nobody knows. Instead of getting caught up in what she said, because you don't know the underlying motivation as to why she was crabby, because people can be like that for whatever reason. It's not your job to get why they're crabby, right? It's your job to make sure that you minimize that kind of energy and thought towards that. You minimize the amount of thought you put towards that. And we've been taught, customer service-wise, to get our due, right? We've been taught to fight and struggle for what we want when we don't need to. And you've just demonstrated that if we just take a breath, walk out, walk back in, we just let that go. That the positive energy, the other person came to you because you are positive energy. You weren't supposed to be with that first person, but you might have still been with them if you had invested in what she was doing in her energy field, right? And we just forget we have that choice. We can choose not to participate in that. And that is beautiful. I love that example, actually.
Well, so many times when I would get into a situation and if I was in a hurry doing something, I needed to print something off of my computer will freeze. And talk about a lesson from the universe. It'll freeze. And I have no choice but to reboot the computer.
Exactly.
Turn everything down, and then I'm further behind time-wise, because obviously I was in a hurry. I'm further behind time-wise than if I would have just ease and grace, like turn on the computer, print what I needed to print, let it just run. But I think when we do that, so like with me turning around and just sort of rebooting my own computer, resetting my vibration, not allowing it to come in, and focus on the positive. And I was so grateful because I had somebody help me. I rented a U-Haul to take back all this lumber. And it was a beautiful sunny day yesterday, and that was my goal. I wanted to be able to do it when the weather was warm before it got cold today.
Yeah,
and I achieved it, and I returned I didn't need to keep the U-Haul 24 hours. I returned it. It was easy breezy, and I was so grateful.
I love it. Yeah, you're not the kind of person that should have anything to do with that, and you know it. And again, it's these situations come up and they manifest in different ways. And I would put that another way too. That there's another angle to this, which is it was just a test for you. It was just a test to see if you would fall for the banana in the tailpipe.
Going back to the beginning. I don't think I'm going to quite. Not going to look at duct tape and bananas quite the same way.
Exactly, right? I can't tell you. On that note, I simply have to tell you that I was trying to figure out a way. I use duct tape all the time. I buy that Gorilla duct tape because it's like strong as all get out. And I have a roll of white, I have a roll of black, and whatever. And I had to use it just on Saturday actually to create a pen for next to my bed for our little puppy. So that it wouldn't be able to get out and go roam the house or roam the bedroom and wreak all kinds of havoc. And it took me a couple of days to figure out how to use some duct tape and what to use with it. But once I figured it out, it only took a trip to Lowe's in 15 minutes, and I took care of it.
Isn't that amazing?
And I love doing that. I mean, I love being creative. If I just sit around and go, come up, give me a way to do this. Give me a way to do this. I just had to veg on it a little bit. Just simmer on it. You get the idea. You're going to simmer on it, and then you come up with the idea the answer comes to you, and then you just go take care of it. Instead of focusing on how can I do that, how can I do that, how can I do that. That's not what you ask. That's not your job. Figure it out. The universe will your guide, the universe, source, your higher self. It'll figure it out. It'll figure it out for you. Just ask the question and move on. And it'll
you're right.
come up with the answer for you, and boom, pop it right into your head, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's how I do that. That's how it happens.
Well, and I think part of that, too, Michael, is like you don't micromanage your life. You just let things unfold, and you allow that flow of positive energy to come in. And then when you achieve something like creating that little pen, it's like you have that sense of achievement, and then there's joy in that. Like, look at that. Look at this. You see it. You're already seeing it in your head already done. Well, I already know that. And you never know what that will, I don't know, what their skill set will come in. I mean, there's lots of things that I've used duct tape for. When I heard about $6.2 million for a banana, duct tape and a banana, I was thinking that somebody used rolls and rolls of duct tape and made this like gigantic sculpture of a banana. I was not expecting what when I looked it up, because I was on one of the major news networks. Yeah,
the simplest of things, just duct tape, like crisscross duct tape on a wall. I mean, it's like, but the duct tape and the banana was a culmination of all the creativity that and all of the things that this particular gentleman did. And I mean, he couldn't have done it in the beginning and gotten away with that.
Well, and the other thing too, and I think the first time when he exhibited, and another artist came and ate the banana that was on the wall, he didn't sit there and stomp his feet and go, you owe me money because you have this man arrested. He ate my banana.
Yeah, he ate my art installation.
No, he replaced, he put another banana there, right?
Exactly.
And it's a good metaphor, too, because some things in life, bananas, I don't know what the shelf life of a banana is, but eventually they start to ripen, and eventually they'll start to disintegrate, But,
and the fruit flies will come and say hello. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness, absolutely. All of those other things.
It's problematic, yeah.
But, it's sort of like anything that we do, even your little puppy pen, it's temporary. You're not building it out of cement. It's there. It's impermanent. And that's sort of a lot of things in our life, whether they be an obstacle or a physical structure like a dog pen. It's just temporary. It's just temporary. It's here. It's gone. Here and gone. Okay, what's next? There's going to be a time when your puppy isn't going to need that pen. Okay, what do we need next?
You move on from it. And there'll always be something else. And I appreciate the compliment. About not really getting caught up in things and just letting things happen. I will tell you that my definition of stress is completely in becoming absorbed in the how. How is this going to happen? It's just, and it's so antithetical. It's like when you do that, it creates this energy that you don't want in your life, the stress energy, the cortisol release, the negative aspects of the things you don't want to deal with. You think more about what you don't want than what you do want, and just literally quieting down or just shifting your focus away and moving somewhere else. It's interesting because I'm still making the golf videos, and I made a couple. I had one released today at 3, and I was talking about the fact that we spend a lot of time on attempting to exert such control over our lives. We never let the universe in on helping us. We never let our guides help. We never let our angels help us. We never let our higher self get involved and say, hey, here's the way to do this for you. And all we have to do, if I can impart anything to our audience here on PRN-FM or on our podcast, Connect to Love podcast, it's this, just relax. Sit down. Get quiet. Do something else that singularly focuses your mind. And it's that sort of, I can't remember what that was. I can't remember what that was. And somebody will invariably say, think of something else, and it'll come to you. Think of something else. Because you're putting way too much energy on, you don't know what it is. In other words, you're focused on the wrong thing, the thing that you don't know instead of the thing you know. Right? We're always, that's what we have a tendency to do, but that's generally what we've been taught. Right? So we have to, at some point in life, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, or your 50s or 60s like me, you figure out that a lot of the things that you learned have no relevance. That was the fighting uphill way of doing things instead of taking the easy road.
Right.
Take the easy road. Just letting the path of least resistance. Right? Just take the path of least resistance. Don't focus on the how. Come up with an idea. And somebody said the other day, and something I was listening to, that millions of ideas, millions and millions of ideas have just gone by the wayside. Good ideas, because people didn't act on them. They got talked out of them before they dedicated enough energy to them to move them forward. That's basically it. It's
wonderful.
It's a wonder. It's a wonder. It's a wonder. Let me ask you. We hadn't talked about, what's been going on in your life, and there's some things that you've been facing. But one of the things that I noticed in this past week and a half, especially in the past week, that you have done what we're talking about. Instead of obsessing over something, because we're the practices of our own preaching. That's what we do, right? We're human beings. And I have noticed that there was no more conversation about some of the things that you had to accomplish. No more conversation. No obsessing over them. No investing in them. And I'm going to, not that I want you to talk about what's going on in your life, but I'm going to make a wild guess and say that you've gotten where you wanted to be since that conversation. Am I right?
I'm at a sense of peace. I have, and sometimes it sounds so funny, but when I'm done with something, I'm done, and I wake up into the next. It's a new day, and I'm grateful that those things are in the past. And I just saw somebody that mentioned something about how quickly time goes by. Somebody mentioned that here it is November. I can't believe how fast the year has gone by. And I said to them, well, when you're a child, you're waiting for, the days seem to take so long. And I've heard it say that when you get to be older, 80s, 90s, whatever, if you're blessed to make it that far, the time just goes by so quickly. And I've really anchored in that we only have so many heartbeats, and how do you want to spend those heartbeats? And I have made the conscious choice to not spend them in ways that don't bring me joy. I mean, I still get, you still get, but you pull yourself back quicker and quicker. And I truly believe the universe has your back. It's always conspiring in your favor, letting go, trusting in the divine plan. Everything unfolds perfectly. And I said that to somebody the other day. I said, I'm either a hypocrite or I'm understanding that all of these things that are unfolding perfectly. Is it for me to meet somebody who's going to help me open a doorway? Whatever it is, I need to have that doorway closed so I can focus my full energy on what it is that I really want and desire, and that brings me joy. And that's really, I've said it before, I really believe that part of my purpose here is all about love. And I'm seeing it come back to me in so many different ways. And I'm grateful to be able to be in that space and to expand that capacity and share my heartbeats that way. Really, truly, thank you, Michael, for bringing that up. It's very kind of you.
I will leave audience in the next 45 seconds with something very interesting. I heard a gentleman yesterday on one of the YouTube channels that I listened to, and he said something very profound. He said, people think about love, but what they're really doing is they're attaching love. It's love with conditions. And I would encourage our audience to experience one day where you love yourself and everything around you unconditionally without any judgments or anything of that kind, and see how you feel at the end of the day.
That's beautiful.
And it's been such a wonderful hour. I'm just gone again, talking about time passing fast.
I know. It's wonderful to share these moments of time with you and with our audience. Thank you so much. And until next time. Yeah. Peace out. Take care.